River Road, you got me running way back home. River Road, you got me running all night long. You got me singing some canal boat song. River Road, you got me running all night long.
All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Niner Nuts. I'm Dan here along with Eric, and Jimmy B is here with us on a Tuesday after a month. How are we doing, guys?
Woo! All right. Doing all right.
Woo! Thank you for covering my cough there. Well, James, as we always do. Just kidding, it wasn't gone. As we do on every Tuesday episode, before we get to the recap of our bad game against the Kansas City Chiefs, we are recapping what happened during the rest of the week, minus the 2 Monday games, because we tape on Monday. Well, this case, 2 Monday games. So with that, we're just going to roll right into it. I already let Mr. Jimmy B know these are quick, snappy recaps. We do reserve the right for one tangent each. We decided last week. If we could still talk about our game for at least 20 minutes, though. That's my only stipulation. But anyway, going from the top to bottom, we're starting with Thursday, as the real week does. The Broncos at the Saints. The week kicked off with a grim realization for New Orleans. The injury gods decided to punish them pretty hard this year. It was an easy win for Sean Payton and the Broncos, and they somehow get to cling to wildcard hope for another week. We'll see how that goes, but just Godspeed, New Orleans. It's going to be a long season.
Yeah, there's a couple of teams this season that are somehow winning despite the fact that they have nobody playing quarterback for them, which I don't understand. The Broncos are one of them. Bo Nix is terrible. He sucks. He's really bad. But the Broncos somehow still have 4 wins. So there you go.
Yeah. I mean, everybody was on the hype train of New Orleans those first 2 weeks. And it's just like those first 2 weeks of the season, just crazy stuff happens. Just every year a team comes out hot, and then by the 3rd week and 4th week, they come crashing down to earth. I remember there was one season where the Bills in their first 2 games outscored their opponent like 63-3 in their first 2 games. And everybody was like, oh my gosh, the Bills are back. Da, da, da. And then they ended up proceeding not to make the playoffs that year. And so, I mean, the Saints were that team this year. They collectively beat the first 2 teams of the season by a lot, and everybody was high on the Saints, and then they met the Eagles, who brought them back down to earth.
Yep, just keep on riding Broncos, and we'll call hospice for New Orleans here in a minute. On to our next game. The International Series continues. Their stranglehold on Jacksonville. The Patriots came over to play them this time. The Jags finally got a win in jolly old England during the stretch. It just took one of the other 5 worst teams in the league to do it. It's just still going to be a long season for both teams. But at least for the Patriots, Drake May looks pretty good. So there's that.
I mean, on the plus side, Doug Peterson gets to come home. They're not going to leave him in London now. So, I mean, there's that. I mean, I don't know. This was one of the least exciting games ever on the NFL schedule. So that's just
saying something since Jacksonville scored 35 points.
Well, I know, but it's just 2 really terrible teams getting together, and it's just somebody had to win, really. And I mean, I guess Jacksonville is the team that does that. The Patriots, you know, they're in a rebuilding year. I mean, at least they're upfront about it. You know, they're not really tanking per se, but you know, they knew that they weren't going to be anything spectacular this year, and they make no bones about it.
I mean, the fact that we picked like one of their only, like they've only had 1 win this year, right?
Yeah, and we picked it.
And we picked it. And not based on any type of rationale other than a team of Patriots would beat a team of Bengals.
Yes. Yes.
Oh God, and how quickly that hype disappeared after that. God, that's so funny. All right, next I got up here next is the Seahawks at the Falcons. Trap game of the week. Anybody else? All it took was an actual week off instead of playing 3 games in 11 days for Seattle to get their footing back and seemingly get back on track and on top of the NFC West. The Falcons can't sleep on anybody like this again if they want to continue their Cinderella story into the playoffs. Like, this was just embarrassing. So I don't know. I consider it a one-off fluke for the Falcons losing. They could, but I don't know. Like, I hope this was a wake-up call for them.
This is a perfect example of why I don't ever bet on the Atlanta Falcons. They are so up and down week to week, so inconsistent, so just you don't know what you're getting week to week with the Falcons. And it's been this way through multiple head coaches, multiple regimes. It just is what they are. I mean, it's been this way for at least probably 3 or 4 seasons now. And it's just not gotten any better. And they have games like this where you think they should easily win, coming out of their victory last week where they clearly looked like a good team and a well-positioned team. And they face the Seahawks, who aren't great, and they get the doors blown off of them. So I don't know what to think of this Falcons team. I'm putting them back down in the pile of they're just distinctly very average.
It's funny that you mentioned like this 3 to 4 year like drought or the span or whatever they've been going through, and I think that's just shy of how long they've had the new stadium there. And I think what's bringing them bad luck is the fact that they have a Chick-fil-A in the stadium. Like, have something that you cannot draw or generate any revenue from on the days you actually play. Like, so like you're just that bad luck. That's just it's got to be bad luck.
Do they not open the Chick-fil-A on game days even?
Not on Sunday. No, they do
really?
Not.
Corporate mandate.
They have it there for like Saturday events, like concerts.
Yeah,
or like a Georgia game or something like that. But
they have a really good soccer team.
Yeah, but Sundays when the Falcons play, sorry, you're not getting Chick-fil-A today.
Wow, that's just really stupid, but okay. Yeah.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
Not the fact that they stole the Superdome's name, but it's the Chick-fil-A. Anyway, on to next I have is Titans at Bills. I don't have many notes for this game other than the Bills seemingly forgot how to football for the first half of this game before they finally got some Gatorade and some granola bars and clamped down as we all expected them to. The Titans are just simply the NFL stepping stone for the rest of the league. Like, you're just going to get a win against the Titans. Like, even if Mason Rudolph is starting, this team's not any different. They're not any worse. They're not any better. They're in that bottom 5 with the Panthers and the Patriots. They're in the Browns. They're awful.
Yeah, I haven't watched a lot of Titans football this season because why would you, unless you're a diehard Titans fan?
Why would you do that as well?
Yeah, I mean, Mason Rudolph looked really, really bad. So Will Levis must look atrociously terrible to have been benched for Mason Rudolph.
He was. Spoiler alert, he was.
I mean, I must admit, I watched the first half of this game with a very puckered butthole because my survivor pool was based on the whole Bills winning, and I was very worried that this was going to be one of these games that the Bills just bumbled away, that they sometimes do. But they came out and blew it away in the second half, and my survivor pool lived on. Woo!
Yay!
Okay, breathe. And James was giving his thoughts on the Titans.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean, the Titans are just in quarterback purgatory. They have been for quite some time. I think probably since Steve McNair. They're sort of like the Browns, where they just can't keep a starting quarterback for that long. So I feel sorry for Tennessee fans, and maybe one day they'll get a GM or owner who can pick the right guy at quarterback.
Couldn't agree more. That just poor Titans fans. All right, so I feel like we're all gonna reserve our little tirade for this game. The Bengals, the Browns, we all have some big feelings about this one. Just my notes real quick. The Bengals didn't change the narrative that something is deeply wrong with their offense, but skirted out with the win anyway. And although the Browns may have been the true winners in this game, you never want a serious injury to happen to a player, but even the football gods finally had enough of Watson and stepped in. Praise be. I hope the surgery goes very well. I am joking, but yeah, that's the big takeaway from this game. Watson finally out for the season, unfortunately due to injury, but yeah, I don't know. What do you guys, what are your thoughts on this game?
Well, I mean, Browns fans are probably all secretly rejoicing throughout the land right now. I mean, Watson's been
I don't think it's secret. I don't think it's secret. I heard applause in that stadium when he kicked it out.
I watched this game live exclusively just to hear the boos whenever they would be 3 and out.
Yeah. So, I mean, you don't want to see a guy get hurt, and I'm not a believer that you should applaud when a guy gets hurt and gets carried off, but I understand why they would do that, given as miserable as he's been all season long, and the fact that most of the city just really hates him and wishes that he wasn't there. So I don't know. I don't know that this ends the nightmare of Deshaun Watson for the Cleveland Browns. Their whole cap situation with him is a big mess. We can talk about that some other time in the offseason and whatever, but he probably ends up having to come back still next year, whether it's as a starter or the world's most expensive backup quarterback anyone's ever had. I don't know what it's going to be like, but I don't think they could just jettison him away because he's like 120 million against the cap. So I think he'll still be around, but I think his days as starting for the Browns are graciously probably over. Unfortunately, the Browns are still a mess. They're one of the worst teams in football. Keep betting against them.
Yeah. I mean, at least Cleveland fans weren't like Roman soccer fans that'll be just like when somebody gets hurt, they're like, you're going to die. You're going to die. You're going to die. That's their chant. That's literally what their chant.
Just give them the thumbs down.
They're just like, you're going to die.
Out come the Lions and they just
maul him. I mean, that's, nobody's as worse as Roman soccer fans, but honestly, my thought is for Cleveland, and this is not my idea. I forget where I saw this. One of the big podcasts that's out there suggested that what the Browns should do is find a team with a lot of cap space and send Deshaun Watson and a first round pick to take half of his contract away. And then that would free up about $36 million in cap space, I think. So
I think I saw it's like 72 or 76 against the cap both next year.
Yeah,
and
so you figure you trade your first round pick, you give them to Deshaun Watson, they pay half the salary. That's $36 million that you got back. You don't have to worry about a $72 million cap hit. You might as well just cut ties. You can't pick first round talent anyway, unless it's Myles Garrett. That's about the only person I think they've picked out of the first round that's even still on the team. So yeah, I just think, just cut your ties, give that first round pick to, whoever has the most cap space and just call it a day.
It's such a mess. That could be something we play with in the bye week too. Just dissecting that. I know we have a card idea for the bye week, but oh man, I can't wait for the 30th for 30 in 5 years about Deshaun Watson. I'll put it that way.
Oh yeah.
All right, next, Texans at the Packers, an inter-conference showdown that didn't pull any punches. The Green Bay defense, I think, is legit and is finally coming to form. Jordan Love handled that stout Texans defense like a $50 million quarterback should. The Texans fought hard. They did. I mean that. But it's time for some adjustments. The league is watching, and the empty spot at the big boy table is theirs to lose. I think they can still get there. I think this was just a hell of a game that someone had to lose. But no, the Packers, they were at home, but the Texans gave them a run, and the Packers, they're just affirming what I thought, that they were going to be a legit wildcard team.
Yeah, I watched a lot of this game too. Packers are really legit. I'm gonna put them in the layer of really actually good teams in the NFC. They're a contender for real. Now they're only going to be as good and go as far as Love is going to carry them. That much is obvious. I mean, he is clearly the that stirs the drink there, or the straw that stirs the drink there. He's making everything happen. He's leading that team, which a guy that's making $50 million a year should, don't get me wrong. But if he runs into a defense that slows him down, I'm not sure that the other pieces of the puzzle can pick him up and carry that team across. So be interesting to see what happens when he has a stinker of a game sometime.
Yeah, as the famous words of the Beatles song, "All you need is love," right? And the only thing really bothers me about this game is I didn't watch it, but I was paying closely attention to Jalen Reed's passing yards because that was on our parlay, and I was thoroughly disappointed with that. I didn't see how we did on the rest of the parlay, but I know we hit the Saquon bets, so yeah. But yeah, that's the only thing I could say about this game as I was paying attention to it was, Jalen Reed, two catches for 10 yards.
Yeah, that did not work this week. Oh, just along the lines of how Love is dominating, Josh Jacobs has yet to hit 100 yards this season and only has one rushing touchdown. So if Love isn't throwing for 250 and multiple touchdowns, this team doesn't look like they're going anywhere.
That is something to keep an eye on. If Josh Jacobs has to be the bell cow again, can he be the bell cow? I think that's a good note to end that on. On to my winner of Someone Had to Win This Game award, the Dolphins at the Colts. The Anthony Richardson experiment continues on, and Colts fans can be happy that they just faced a hapless Dolphins team that's going nowhere fast. This was a sloppy game. I watched the highlights again just before we started taping, and this was just incompletes, punt, turnover, punt. This was just a sloppy, gross game, and wins won't come easy going forward unless Richardson grows up fast. And I ask, if Caleb Williams can, why can't he? He will be the reason they make or don't make the playoffs.
I mean, they're not making the playoffs. That's not going to happen.
Playoffs?
Yeah.
They're 4-3, even though their run defense is atrocious. But they're 4-3. Like that's not a bad leg to stand on this far into the season.
Anthony Richardson can't throw the ball in the ocean from the beach.
That's why I posed the question and said, if he can grow up fast like Caleb has, maybe. But again, yes, of course, I'm siding with you that they're just going to have to suck it up this season and just try to end at 500. I think that's most realistic for the Colts. Anyway, tangent over.
Yeah, I mean, they're not good. They're much better with Flacco as quarterback, to be honest. I mean, if you really want to talk about making the playoffs, they need to bench Richardson and put in Flacco. But I understand we've talked a lot about why Richardson is playing, and I get why he's playing, and he should be playing, but they're not going to make the playoffs. This Dolphins team is gross right now, and I don't know if Tua coming back is going to fix them. That's going to be one of the really interesting stories to watch when he returns, because I mean, they've completely just absolutely fallen off the map. I mean, Tyreek's doing nothing, Waddle's doing nothing. I mean, they're generating just absolutely no offense, and I find it really hard to believe that everything is just keyed on Tua. Like, it can't really just be him. So I'm going to be really interested to see what happens when he comes back.
I mean, Dolphins, and yeah, they're and the Colts. So word came out before we started this podcast that Jonathan Taylor has a good shot starting on Sunday. So that, when we're talking playoffs, if they can lean on a good run game and Anthony Richardson doesn't turn the ball over, maybe he doesn't have to grow up really, really fast. He just needs to keep the ball from interceptions and fumbles. So there is the possibility that the Colts make the playoffs if
That's a
Jonathan.
little. It's easier said than done with him, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, so, but you never know. I mean, yeah, if you taking care of the ball, Jonathan Taylor run game. Unfortunate with Miami, this is how it goes. They, every so often they'll start looking good, and then all of a sudden everything just washes away from it, and they got to start all over again. So,
Is Tua really going to unlock this team though? I mean, like when Tua comes back in like a week or two or whatever it is plugging him in really going to make this Miami team all of a sudden this 30-point juggernaut that like everybody like expects him to be again? Like, is it just going to magically fix everything?
Unless I see it, I agree with you, James. It's not.
Yeah, I don't think Tua coming back is going to do anything. I mean, this is sort of like Miami's like, Miami's repertoire, I guess I would say. Basically, they get a new coach. The coach is successful for a little bit, and then the next thing you know, stuff happens, and they just end up collapsing and having to get rid of everybody and rebuild again. And so, that's likely what's going to happen here. At the end of the season, Tua's not going to magically bring. I don't think, like you said, Eric, it's just not going to magically happen where he's going to all of a sudden make this team go from what they are now to a legit contender. So
I don't think so.
Yeah. So, and I don't honestly, I hate to say this from a business perspective, but as a Miami owner or GM, do you really want to go another season resting onto his shoulder and the fact that he cannot stay out there without getting a concussion for more than 2 games? Like, are you really going to bet the rest of your franchise on that? So I think like this Miami year is going to be done. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised if they blew the whole thing up, coach and all, and started from fresh again.
Well, they got a lot of really high priced contracts on that team.
They do, and they just extended. McDaniels. So, I agree in principle that might need to be the case unless Tua pulls an OP like God mode the rest of the year. But no, we just have to wait and see. We need to move onward though to the rest of the schedule we have. The next game, my personal favorite game of the week, and I did pay the most attention to this one in my little 1:00 Foursquare going on. The Lions at the Vikings. The only game that was better than the Texans at the Packers was this NFC North showdown. The Vikings winning streak came to an end, and the Lions look for real. Jared Goff is playing arguably the best season of his career as a pro, which we were already saying last year, and he looks better, or at least in this 3-game stretch that he's had now. Probably the best 3-game stretch of his career. They seemingly still seem complete even without Aiden Hutchinson. I already am calling for the playoff seeding to end up giving us a 3rd round of Lions Vikings. Like, I know we got a second one, and just as an objective football fan, I really hope they end up playing each other 3 times. Like, whoever is the division champion and the wild card. This game was awesome.
Yeah, I saw a lot of this game as well. I was watching this in my little quad box kind of thing going on. Very entertaining game. Very well done by both teams. Lions are super hot right now. Goff is playing some of the best football that I've seen right now. I think I saw a stat today that the Lions have more touchdowns than he has incompletions over the last like 3 or 4 games or something like that. So
it's like 18 touchdowns to 15 incompletions or something like that. It's stupid.
That's insane.
Yeah. So I mean, like, he's just been fantastic right now, and the Lions are, the class of the NFC. So, and as I've said for multiple weeks, once the Vikings had to play somebody that's actually really good, we see if they can win. Now they hung with them, but they didn't pull out the W. So I'm saying Vikings still pretenders till they beat somebody that really matters. They're very good. They're very good, but still pretenders.
Well, yeah, and these Lions we saw last year are pretty real. The Vikings are just sort of upstart with my boy Sam Darnold. But I think what's most important, about the Lions is they're actually annoying the New Jersey governor, Chris Christie, because apparently Chris Christie is a Cowboys fan, and the way the Lions tried to score with linemen really upset him. So I was just like, okay, keep ticking off the Jersey governor, because everybody knows nobody likes Jersey anyway. So, I mean, Lions, good for the Lions.
Amen. That's hilarious. Because the next game up here, I didn't know that about Christie, because the next game up here was in New Jersey. The Eagles going to the New York Giants, and this was the Saquon show. Once, like, even a novice NFL fan, well, yes, you had to remind us, but everyone saw this coming a mile away. That was the headline. I had this on in the corner, and that's all they wouldn't shut up about it. But, the Giants the Giants defense held their own for about half a quarter until they didn't, is what I wrote. It was a lot of splash plays, and it was a little messy, but in the end, it didn't matter. The Giants were never going to last 4 quarters against an even less than stellar Eagles team. And congrats, Saquon. You kicked the crap out of your old team.
Yeah, I mean, Saquon almost had as much yards himself as the entire Giants team did. So, I mean, there you go. Daniel Jones got benched yet again. That's the biggest $40 million mistake that anybody's made in recent times. I wish that I could be an NFL GM so bad and just hand out ridiculous $40 million contracts to just all these people and just still have a job. Like, I don't understand how that happens. Like, you make the biggest idiot move that, like, anybody. I mean, like, I'm a nobody. I'm just a guy literally in my basement ranting at the webcam. And I can tell you that Daniel Jones is not worth $40 million. And yet some guy who's apparently paid tons and tons of money and makes millions of dollars a year was like, I think Daniel Jones is worth a big fat contract. I'll give it to him. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
In our group chat, I'm going to find the best clip I can of the GM, like, failing at getting Saquon a contract, and it's the same clip that my uncle said, "Oh my God, why did he let the producers keep that in the cut?" That's just embarrassing. Obviously, our resident Eagles fan, what's your 2 cents on this?
Oh man, this is a great day for me. We all called it. I mean, I think even when we bet 90, all of us were willing to go 150 on the ticket, and he did not disappoint. 176, 13 yards away from his actual career high. I mean, the Giants are just a bad team, and I'm surprised. I'm really surprised that today we are, part of the story is that we're not talking about a fired Giants GM like that. Like that. After that game, after what Saquon does to you, the owner, on Hard Knocks saying what he said, like, I don't understand why John Mara just didn't fire the GM right after the game. Because that's an embarrassment. You let basically your best player, offensive player, walk out the door to a division rival, and then they come into our house, the Giants' house, and basically he runs all over you.
It's embarrassing, like what the Titans did last year after AJ Brown killed them.
Yeah, I mean, and Jalen did. This is the second week in a row Jalen didn't turn the ball over. One thing though that's concerning with the Eagles is their left tackle situation. Jordan Mailata has been injured. He was injured in last week's game, and he was injured this week's, and he's got a bad hammy, so he might come back in another 2 or 3 weeks. So we have to deal with Fred Johnson on the left tackle. And, in the first half, the Eagles tried to throw some, like they like to do. And Jalen was just under so much pressure. Barely, Jalen threw, I think, for like 11 times or 15 times, not even that much. But he didn't turn the ball over, which is important. And the Eagles defense looked really, really good. Quinyon Mitchell, he's the real deal. Like, he actually, I think he he'll be a candidate for defensive rookie of the year this year, I believe. Just because like they put him on, you can put him on the number one guy, the number two guy, the slot, anywhere. You can put him anywhere on the field and he can cover that guy. I think he'll be one of the contenders for defensive rookie of the year this year. So he has the lowest quarterback rating, QBR rating against him in the league, which is like 59.4 or something like that. So he's a really good corner. He's got the corner mentality, and yeah, he's legit.
Hell yeah. All right, 3 more games to go real quick here. First, Raiders at the Rams. I have barely any notes on this game. This wasn't my someone had to win, because it was honestly like the fact that it came down the way that it did, like I was it doesn't matter, honestly. Like it was more exciting to watch the highlights though than the Colts. That's why I'm trying to word vomit out. The Raiders don't have a quarterback, and now they don't have Devontae Adams, but at least Bowers looks really good, I guess. And Stafford's still doing his best to make chicken soup out of chicken crap. I'm still not convinced they're going to hit 500 at the end of the day. And I honestly have like no notes for this game. I really don't beyond that.
Well, I mean, we talked about it a couple of times. The Raiders were one of those quarterback situations that we said were atrocious at the beginning of the season, and it's playing itself out to be atrocious throughout this season. I mean, the 2 guys that they have there, neither of them was a real quality starter. I mean, the mustache was like an okay fill-in for like a couple of games when you need him, but he's not somebody that you can count on for 17 games a season. O'Connell just doesn't seem like he has it. He kind of just looks lost when he's out there. And so the Raiders got nothing. And so they're just kind of playing out the stretch of things. They've got some talent. They should look to unload some of their players here at the trade deadline and pick up some draft capital. They've got some pieces that are valuable that other teams would probably be interested in, and they should take advantage of that.
I wonder how much Tom Brady's going to be a part of that. Like, get rid of these guys, get rid of that guy. Let's hire Bill Belichick, whatever. Like, now that the Raiders have a brand new owner in Tom Brady, like, how much is he going to have on the identity of the Raiders? Because I think you're right, Eric. I think the Raiders should probably blow up the team, get draft capital for the guys that they can, like Max Crosby. Send him to the Eagles. We'll take him. I mean, obviously around the league, Matt Crosby is at least worth the number 1 draft pick at the age that he's at, the production that he's having. He's easily worth the number 1 draft pick anywhere you send him in the league. You probably don't want to send him to interconference. So you send him to the Eagles, or if the 49ers are in it, John's going to make a play for him too. So, but the Raiders should just blow their team up and just try to rebuild now that they have a new owner, probably get a new GM, and go about it that way.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing on either side of the ball that's any good for the Raiders right now. I mean, there's just nothing. They're not generating any offense, and their defense can't stop anybody. So just throw it all in the trash. Start all over. I mean, Antonio Pierce, he's going to be gone at the end of this season. There's no reason to keep him. So start over. Max Crosby only making $22 million this year, by the way.
Yeah.
I agree. And a lot of people will be curious how closely the people at Fox will be closely watching how involved Tom Brady is for sure. But that's for another day. Next game, Panthers at Commanders. The Daniels injury is the only thing that's worth note in this game. I just wrote jokingly that Marcus Mariota got to use his 1 OP God mode power up that he's allowed per season. And where the hell did the Panthers that were competitive against the Falcons go? This was embarrassing. A 40 burger. Dalton's completely out of magic. I got nothing else. Like this game just sucked. Even watching the highlights sucked. Like I just hope that Daniels' injury is not bad.
I saw the play where Daniels got hurt, and I still don't really understand how he got hurt. He just kind of like crumpled and like apparently hurt his ribs. So I'm still confused by that. I hope for their sake he's not hurt for a long period of time, because they definitely need him out there. Mariota can probably get him through a game or two. Who do they play next? Washington plays. Oh, they play the Bears next. Ugh.
Remember,
Bears
he used his
at the 4:00 at the 4 game of the week. That's the Fox game of the week too.
Yeah.
remember last year he used his OP God mode power on us, and then he was bad the rest of the year.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, it's Bears, Giants, Steelers. So I mean, like theoretically, even if they lose to the Bears, they should beat Steelers and Giants. But I don't know. The Commanders have been fun to watch. The Panthers, I mean, if they're going to continue to just put up 7 points, they might as well just put Bryce Young back in. I mean, what the hell's the point in playing Dalton if you're just going to score one lousy touchdown in the end of the fourth quarter? Who the hell cares? Just put Bryce Young back in and audition him for other teams for the rest of the season.
Oh man, how funny that would be. Sorry, James, just real quick, your 2 cents.
I mean, is there like a worse regime in the NFL than the Carolina Panthers, like top down owner?
The Browns.
Yeah, but to be fair, let's just take away the player for a second. Let's just talk about this. Like, this was everybody wanted Deshaun Watson. Like, just they did. Like, there were many teams involved with many draft picks, and at one point, Deshaun said he wasn't going to go to Cleveland. Right? He said he wasn't going to go to Cleveland. It was between like the Falcons and the Saints and the Panthers, all of those teams. And you know what? As much as it was a really bad contract in the end, at the time, it was such a bold move to do what Cleveland did, to get the player that they wanted, even though he had said no to them originally. Like, I just like the risk that they were taking in that case. Like they were taking a big risk. It didn't work out. But I tell you what, there were a lot of other teams, including the Eagles, who called about Deshaun Watson. There were a lot of teams calling about Deshaun Watson. But at the time, you don't really look, you look at the move in hindsight, you're like, yeah, they really shouldn't have done that. But at the time, that was a really baller move. That was a real baller move, and the Panthers, like, they don't have anybody on in their management team who could come up with such an idea like that. Like if somebody says no to the Panthers right now, good luck for the Panthers to actually convince them to actually come after they say no. Like they don't have anybody in their front office or anything imaginative enough to do something like that. So say what you will about the Browns and the Deshaun Watson contract. In hindsight, yeah, they shouldn't have given it to him. But at the time, everybody was like, that's a baller move right there. So, yeah.
Right. Well, hey, we got to go to this last game. The Jets at the Steelers on Sunday Night Football. My note is more of a visual gag, but it says laughs in Packers. So good luck, Jets. The Steelers, though, are not playing around anymore. Like, I was honestly pretty impressed with the little. I just watched the highlights of this game, but honestly, I was pretty impressed at how Russell steered the ship. That defense is still really, really good, and just damn it, Tomlin, you're a great coach, and I salute you. And just to punctuate it again, laughs in Packers.
Well, we talked about it a little bit last week, Dan. The Steelers are kind of my little man crush of a team, and so they picked up a win against the Jets this week. They continue to pour it on in the AFC. Their defense continues to be fantastic and shut out the Jets in the entire second half. Made Aaron Rodgers look fairly mortal on the evening, and with Russell Wilson in the second half, he looked more Russell Wilson-like. And so if he's actually going to play at that level and look that way, then this Steelers team is going to be really good because they're going to have competent quarterback play, which is not something that they had with Justin Fields in there.
I mean, yeah, the Steelers, if they can get this version of Russ Wilson the rest of the season, I think they'll be in a good spot to be, one of those top, might even be a top contender in the AFC, be up there with, the Chiefs, the Ravens. It's just another one of those teams that might be a contender coming out of the AFC, because that defense, that defense is killer. And so if they can just, like you said, Eric, if they can get good, competent quarterback play, there's no telling how far they can go if they get that. So, and that's what they've been missing over the last couple of years is good, competent quarterback play. And even with no good, competent quarterback play, they still made the playoffs, and still finished with over a 500 record. So take that defense, get them good, competent quarterback play. We're talking about an AFC contender, I think.
Yeah, and Russell Wilson just needs to be like pretty good. He doesn't need to be great for them to be successful. He just needs to be pretty good. He needs to be 200-ish yards and like a touchdown or two, and they'll be just fine.
Yeah, no, 100%. They will give the Ravens a run for their money if he just plays average even. I completely agree there. But now that we've gotten through all the other games of the week, we have to rip the Band-Aid off. We have to address our team, the team of our namesake, the 49ers. We were the game of the week with Tom Brady and Kevin Burkhardt calling it. And we are 0-4 against Andy Reid versus Kyle Shanahan. We lost to the Kansas City Chiefs at home, 28-20. I'm kind of obliged to go through some nerdy numbers now. I don't want to, but we held Patrick Mahomes to a 44 quarterback rating, picked him off twice, no throwing touchdowns, even though he did get a rushing touchdown. Kind of the same with Purdy, a 36 quarterback rating. I hate saying that out loud. 212 yards, 3 picks, but he did get 2 of his own rushing touchdowns. So his total touchdown to interception ratio didn't go out the window. But over here, the Kansas City rushing side, this was the name of the game for their offense. And we tried to do the same too, but 184 yards and 4 touchdowns to 101 yards and 2 touchdowns. We certainly didn't play like we got 100 yards, though. We had to fight for every single one of those yards. It was bad. And then, obviously, the 3 picks, needless to say, our passing game was virtually non-existent outside of George Kittle. Cowing had one great deep shot, but everyone else was inefficient. Brandon Ayuk, as we know now, did break or tear his ACL and MCL. And Debo is missing from here because it turned out he had pneumonia. So, but, I mean, the Kansas City Chiefs were missing a bunch of pieces on their offense too. And, I don't know. I'm just going to leave the numbers up there and just speak from the heart. This was just so deflating. It's so deflating that it's a flaw that we are reliant, so to say, on star power, but we weren't just out of star power. We were just out of power, period. Jordan Mason is less than 100%, and it was hard for him to even get a yard except for the 1 or 2 splash plays he had. Purdy had no chemistry with any of these guys except for Kittle, and that's all they had to cover, especially once Brandon was out. He's throwing to Ricky Pearsall in his first game. Connolly, who's a career backup, he's not been a starter for a reason. And then another rookie in Cowing. And then the offensive line was just getting obliterated. I don't know if it's emotional baggage or just one of those intangibles that Spagnuolo is our kryptonite. He kind of is. I'm speaking facetiously, but he kind of is. And we only lost by 10 points, but look at that game film. Kyle's right. We got our asses kicked. It was bad. Just couldn't show up on offense, so it didn't even matter what we did on defense. We held Kansas City under 30 points, and we picked off Mahomes twice, but all they had to do was just sweep and run us to death. And eventually, because we couldn't stay out there on offense, you break eventually, and that's what happened. Fortunately, I mean, we just got to see how Debo goes with the pneumonia. We lost Brandon for sure, but I don't know. Hopefully, Juwan can take advantage of this opportunity, and we get Debo back eventually. We should get CMC back after the bye week against Tampa. So, it's not that all hope is lost yet, but this sucked. There's no ifs, ands, or buts around it. This sucked. What'd you guys think?
Well, I mean, I'll start with, if you think with the way that this season is going that CMC is in any way, shape, or form making it through this season, you're out of your mind. There is no chance he is making it through this season. He is unfortunately either going to get injured or they're going to shut him down. There is no chance he's making it through this season. It's just the way that this season is going to play out. I mean, when we did the show on Friday or Thursday, however it goes, we talked a little bit about the preview for this game, and this game turned out pretty much like I expected. I felt like we were going to get an ass kicking. I didn't feel like we were in the same class as the Kansas City Chiefs. That was proven in this game. They dominated from start to finish. It really didn't matter what we did. Kansas City had an answer for it, and we just look lost out there. There's definitely, to James's point, when we started talking about things in the offseason and stuff like that, there's a Super Bowl hangover with this team right now. They just do not have it together. And they don't look like a team that has any chance at all of winning the Super Bowl right now. If I'm putting my rankings on teams and looking at things like that, this team is like a pretty good average team. I'd put them right there in the same pile along with the Buccaneers and the Falcons and the Vikings. I mean, maybe a step below the Vikings because they lost to the Vikings, but just sort of that hodgepodge of teams of that every week goes out there and beats people. But when they play a team that's actually really good, can't make it happen. And that's where the 49ers are right now. They are definitely on, I would say, tier 3 in terms of, where you sit in terms of getting into the playoffs. Can this team make the playoffs? I don't know. I'd have to look at the rest of the schedule and see what's, maybe going to happen. But it's going to be a very short playoff experience for them, even if they do at this point in time, because they run into the Vikings again. They're probably not going to get past them. They run into the Packers. They're not going to get past them. They run into the Lions. They're not going to get past them. I mean, there's a whole host of teams that they're not going to get past at this point in time. And I don't know what they're supposed to do.
Tampa could be a challenge because we're in Tampa. Like, it's after the bye week, but honestly, Tampa might be a challenge at this rate.
Yeah, because that to me is a matchup of two pretty good average teams. So, it's just a matchup. It's just which pretty good average team plays better in that particular game, right? And we're going to be down Ayuk. Is Debo going to play that week? Yeah, probably. That's like 3 weeks out. So, theoretically, he should be fine by then. But, our offense is really going to be, I guess our offense is going to be stressed some. Ayuk's been, just to be frank, Ayuk's been playing like crap all season. He hasn't really made much of a difference. So, him being hurt, it's a factor, but it's not like last season, right? Like if Ayuk got hurt last season, I'd be like, oh my God, what are we going to do? Right.
But last year we would have been screwed if he,
it's almost as like having a camp holdout is somewhat bad,
The camp holdout wouldn't have stopped his ACL from tearing, though.
I'm not talking about it, but Eric even said he wasn't having that great of a season even before the ACL tear. Right. And that, for me, if Ayuk isn't having this great season, is having a bad season, after a really good season, and the fact that he held out, like for me, that's a reflection on John. That brings it back to John, like how he always has a camp holdout, and this is what happens. Like, I'm not saying the torn ACL, but not getting a good season for Brandon Ayuk when you obviously need a good season for Brandon Ayuk, that falls on John. Luckily, though, if they can just if they can squeak by the Cowboys here, and just because we know the Cowboys are awful, they're another awful team. If they can squeak by the Cowboys and go into the bye week, and then from what I'm reading, CMC is going to be back for week 10. You're 4-4 going into the bye. You get CMC back. who knows what could happen? You could make somewhat of a run with CMC if we get Debo back, and you have Kittle and Juwan. So I think, it's not completely over, but like Eric said, this is the type of things that happens to Super Bowl losers. Like Super Bowl losers the next year, they have a really, really tough time of sustaining a good season. You look at the Eagles last year. I mean, they went 11 weeks. They went 10-1, but once they got into the middle of their schedule, they started to fall off and collapse. And even last year too, like me watching the Eagles, like, yeah, they were 10-1, but everybody knew that there was something wrong with the team. Like, it was just like they didn't look like they were having fun like they did in 2022. And it was all about we need to get to the Super Bowl again and all of that. And it was just so much pressure on them that they eventually ended up doing that collapse. And one of the things that's probably happening to the 49ers now is that, Purdy, Kittle, Debo, all these players are feeling the pressure that, hey, we lost in the Super Bowl. We got to get back there again right away. That's sort of what's going on here. And they're just playing with so much pressure and not actually having fun with the game. But there's still a shot. I mean,
it's compensating that along with losing CMC so unexpectedly. That's why I think it's like a combination of that. Because no, for sure, the Super Bowl hangover clearly is real, and now the Madden curse is real. But it's not that I'm disputing either of you. It's all a factor of that. Like losing Christian McCaffrey threw such a wrench into it for Kyle that it's made Purdy have to play Superman a little bit, even though we do have all these pieces, and it's just not gelling. It's taken 8 weeks and it's still not gelling. We are blowing 10-point leads. We just got our asses handed to us on a platter. Like, this was the most injured we were playing, sure, but yeah, if we get Debo back and Juwan back and hold our own, and we go into the bye week 4-4, like, no, you're not wrong, Jimmy, that CMC will add to our offense. But I'm kind of splitting the difference between you and Eric that I got to see it to believe it, because I don't even know if Christian, like, he will add something to the offense, but we can't just assume that we're going to go on a 2021 run like we did 3 years ago and somehow make it into the playoffs when we definitely shouldn't have.
I can get them to 10-7. I just went through the schedule. I can get them to 10-7 based on who they play the rest of the schedule. I don't know that 10-7 is going to get them into the playoffs.
No, 10 is not a guarantee anymore. With 17 games, that's not a guarantee.
Yeah, I mean, you look at all those teams in the NFC North. I mean, you've already got, 3 teams there that are probably going to get in.
The whole division might get it. It'd be insane. Like,
yeah,
that's possible.
That's what I was saying. I didn't know it was going to happen, obviously, but I told you guys when Hard Knocks dropped, like, oh, I think they blew their load early with the Bears, like doing an in-division season. Like, they should have delayed the Bears for the in-season one. And I was going out on a limb, but look at where we are now. This division is nuts in the North.
Yeah.
Going into this week's games, the top 4 teams that had point differential were all in the NFC North. The top 4 teams, NFC North, they all led everybody else in point differential. So that division is insane. Like, it's just, can it be sustained? Yeah. They're also, yeah. I mean, and they're going to be beating up on each other too as well. So that could play into something. But once again, like, I think, once you guys get to the bye week, get some rest, for Kittle, Debo, Juwan, CMC comes back week 10, there might be, if you can go out there, who's the week 10 opponent, Eric?
Tampa.
Yeah, Tampa.
Is it in Tampa?
Yeah.
All right. So you go to Tampa. I mean, if you have Juwan, Debo, Kittle, and a healthy CMC, there's no reason that you can't go out there and win that game against the Tampa Bay Bucks. There's no reason that you can't. And so if you can come in there and get a good win, I think that could help drive the team towards like a nice run. But once again, it's just a matter of can they get gelled together and take the monkey off their back as far as like, oh, we have to make the Super Bowl, and just play loose and have fun. So
Yeah, and to be fair, we've seen it happen before. It's not impossible, and yeah, we're near the end of October, so no, we're not at the start of the season anymore. So yeah, we should be a little worried. But
they're gonna have to beat somebody good. I mean,
Yeah.
if they've got Packers, Bills, I'll begrudgingly say Bears coming
Yeah.
up in the next 5 weeks. I mean, they've got to get wins.
Buffalo is in the cold too on Sunday night.
Yeah, they've got to get wins over some of those teams. If they don't pull wins over some of those teams, A, it's not going to matter because they're going to have too many losses. But I mean, B, they've got to prove that they can beat some teams that are actually good.
Yeah. No, and with that, with our time, we'll have to call it there. We got to get a quick word in, of course, from our sponsor. There we go. I'm a good producer. RoyalRetros.com. What is Royal Retros? It is your go-to place to get yourself an authentic throwback jersey. Whether you're into basketball, baseball, soccer, or any of the other major sports, they got you covered as well. And obviously, football fans, 49ers fans, check out the Candlestick collection. It's curated with the Bay Area in mind. And when you find something you like, use the promo code Shady Sports, and you'll get 10% off of your entire order. Again, it's promo code Shady Sports at RoyalRetros.com. Go get yourself an authentic throwback jersey. James, you do this way better than I do. Let the people know about our t-shirts.
So, guys, we are raising money for Mountain Comprehensive Care Centers in Kentucky, basically to help raise awareness throughout the NFL community, mainly fans, because I don't know how much fans know. But right now, owner standards are less than player standards, and the NFL has said that that's supposed to be juxtaposed. And the reason why we know that it's not where the NFL wants it is you can look throughout some of the owners' history, of not being held accountable. And what we mean by that is if a player gets arrested, we know right away. We know right away that player's arrested, what they've been charged with. Right away, it's all over the news. But when an owner does something, specifically the minority owner of the Houston Texans, yes, he plea bargained to a misdemeanor, but still, he was charged and arrested for very serious sexual crimes in Kentucky. And the NFL just sort of held back on even reporting it until somebody mentioned it to NBC Sports, and then it made a little bit of news. So this is where we get off by saying owner standards are less than player standards. And so to show you we put our money where our mouth is, we are raising money for Mountain Comprehensive Care Centers in Kentucky. This is our statement shirt. You can own this shirt, $22.99. Owner standards are less than player standards. # owner accountability. Got multiple colors, different styles, different sizes. This is our podcast logo art. You'll find this wherever you see our YouTube profile or Spotify profile, Apple podcast profile, anywhere you listen to us, this is what's on our profile. $22.99 gets you that in a shirt, different styles, different sizes. This Niner Nuts alternate logo shirt, you may recognize it on me today. This is a very good, high quality shirt, $22.99, different colors, different sizes, different styles. And last but not least, how can you say no to our mascot, a peanut, eating peanuts while cheering on the San Francisco 49ers? $22.99 gets you that in a t-shirt today. Donate to Mountain Comprehensive Care Centers in Kentucky. All the money goes to charity. Do that today.
Yep. All the info, if you want more on Mountain Comprehensive Care Center, the link is in the show notes, as well as the link to bonfire.com for our shop. We always close out the show with a little bit of news, but frankly, the news of Brandon tearing his ACL and MCL officially and Deebo going to the hospital superseded anything else that I could have tried to look up today. I just huge prayers up to both of them. It's going to be a long road for Brandon, and hopefully it's a speedy recovery for Deebo. And yeah, this week sucked. This week was very humbling, and it sucked. But you just gotta move on. We gotta lick our wounds, watch the tape for them. And I'm not watching it's game footage again. But yeah, we got a big game coming up. We're Sunday Night Football hosting Dallas. So just, yeah, it sucks for Debo and Brandon though. That's all I got for the news. Unless you guys have one last thing you want to throw in.
Tua is set to practice, so he's supposed to play on Sunday theoretically. Metcalf sprained his MCL. He's out week to week. The Saints reached a deal with Valdez-Scantling, so they've actually got receivers to throw to.
Hey, MVS did. Oh yeah, because that's going to fix their problem.
Yeah,
I'm surprised MVS didn't sign with the Jets.
I know. Well, he must not be friends with Aaron Rodgers.
Or a reunion, or a reunion with Kansas City.
Yeah,
but then again, he was terrible, and they probably didn't even knock on his door. But
no.
That was a little mean.
So, but maybe we'll get to see if Tua really fixes the Dolphins this Sunday.
Yeah. Now we'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, with that, guys, we're going to be back on Friday with our parlay episode, and we'll have a final update on the injury report, see how healthy we're going to be against the Cowboys. But yeah, with that, that's all we got for our recap episode today. James, sign us out.
Outro music, River Road, Justin Youth.
Let's try to beat the Cowboys. See you on Friday.
River Road, you got me running way back home. River Road, you got me running all night long. You got me singing some canal boat song. River Road, you got me running all night long. River Road, where have all the women gone? Have they kissed her hand and waved you bye-bye? Have they thought about crossing your double yellow lines? River Road, they love the way you whine and cry.